Welcome back to Inside Politics. We're continuing our conversations one-on-one with the candidates for mayor. Today our guest is Jeremy Kane. Jeremy, you were the first mayoral candidate to run a TV spot back in March, but you weren't able to sustain that effort, and you several weeks before you began airing spots again, I think about a week or so ago.
Right.
Did you make a tactical mistake on that, just because you probably didn't have the money to keep those spots on the air?
No, I think we always knew we weren't going to raise the most money. We put our ad up in March, and we knew we were only going to go up a little bit. We knew politically that March is one of the most expensive times to spend money with the basketball tournaments on TV, the NC2A tournaments, and we were hoping our competitors would follow us. We put up about $10,000, and everybody else spent close to $1 million. We wanted that money spent in March, not in July. We're on a level playing field here at the end for all but one candidate, we think. So we wanted folks to spend money early, and we followed them, saw them follow our lead.
So you'll be able to stay on the air from now all the way through the August election?
Absolutely.
At what levels?
At the level we need. We know who our voters are. We know how to reach them. We know the TV shows that they watch, and we know how to reach them at the doors. We know how to reach them in the mailboxes. I mean, you know this better than anybody is. Nashvillians still expect this conversation. They still expect a door knock. They still expect to hear and be able to grill you. I get it every day.
100 forums.
That's right. Well, and I think that's an important piece of it. So TV is one component of many, and we'll compete there.
Your current ad uses some stick figures to say that you're the one that stands out, that you're different. So how are you different?
Yeah, I think one, being young, having the most energy. I think what I hear a lot.
Against old people?
I didn't say that, Pat. No, I think it's you know, every election is about the future, and I think that's one thing that we wanted to get across, and I think the ad does, is what's the future of Nashville, and what is it going to be based on, and who is going to be able to lead it. I think that's one of the things with this race where it's been slow to develop, is we're not just choosing a mayor, we're choosing a vision for Nashville for the future, and the voters are really making that decision, and we wanted to stand up and say, I've got a record to run on, and we're future oriented.
Now, there's been some criticism of the race recently that the candidates have all been maybe a little too nice to each other. They haven't done more to draw direct distinctions between each other. Your ad moves a little bit in that direction, but not with a lot of specifics. Do you think you're going to need to be more specific, other than I'm younger than they are, for why you're the choice?
Well, I don't think it's just the young. I think it's actually having a record to run on, and I think that was the real difference in the ad that we wanted to point out. Is, you know, some people have started running for mayor and have become neighborhood activists. Some have suddenly embraced affordable housing. Some have suddenly said education's important. What we were trying to say, and what I've said, and you've been at many of the forums, is, you know, I'm proud of my record. It happens to come in education, but we're going to be facing some big decisions here in the next 4 and 8 years, and we need a mayor who has courage running in their bones and in their veins, and you can't just become courageous, and you cannot come in and say, I'm ready to take those tough calls just because I'm now mayor.
Now, there haven't been any real independent outside polls done, but there have been several leaked from various campaigns. So far, you've been running pretty far back in the pack. What does your polling say?
Yeah, you know, I broke news a couple of weeks ago where I released some of our poll numbers. I said we were magically not in the lead of our own poll. I think we're the only one to do that. You know, what we're seeing at the doors, what we're seeing out there, what we're seeing in our internal polls is this thing is divided or kind of grouped up within 5 to 7 percentage points. You know, we knew we were going to be low until we could start spending the money, and that was a strategy. We knew it all along. It's a patient strategy. It's not one that the media really picks up on or wants to follow, but it's one that we think is working.
Nobody expects any candidate to win this outright in August. Nobody's going to get a 50% plus one majority, but if you do make the runoff, where will you win this race? What parts of town are critical for you to be able to finish either first or second?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it depends on who else is in the runoff, you know, because then, and I'm excited about it, actually being able to run against one opponent versus 6 other ones. But I think I've got a strong base, you know, within North Nashville. I think Donaldson Hermitage always votes, and I think has been a great area for us. South Nashville is emerging as with a political voice. We saw that recently with the jail and the conversation out there with the resurgence in Antioch. We think that's a place that'll be a battleground.
All the polls show a large undecided vote.
Very much so.
Is that because voters can't perceive any differences between you, or is it also perhaps because they keep hearing all you candidates are great, and all of you would make a great mayor. Maybe they're going to wait and sit it out and see who the final two are and then make their pick.
That's what I'm worried about is, a year ago we looked at this when we started looking at the race and thought this may be one of the highest turnout elections we've ever seen. And now...
But normally mayoral races don't get big turnouts.
Right, and that's what we're looking at, is it may be one of the lowest turnouts. I think right now what we're hearing at the doors, what we're seeing in some of the conversations is that people are waiting to decide. It'll be very interesting to see what the early voting numbers look like and the turnout. But I think this thing is going to break in the last week before August 6th.
We've talked about your request for having another televised debate. Is another debate your last best chance to win this race?
No, I don't think so. I think it helps us get out there. I think every debate, we've seen some candidates shine. We've seen some candidates have to retract their statements the next day, and some, sort of show how out of touch they are. I think that's an opportunity for any one of us candidates to make a move. I think where it's going to be won is grassroots. Is no one is winning this race on TV. We see a lot of soft support for folks. We see a little bit of name recognition, but whether it's 30% or what we're seeing at doors, 50% undecided. This thing is not going to be decided on TV. It's going to be door to door, conversation by conversation.
But it's not just going door to door. It's getting those people that you talk to at the door to show up at the polls, because saying that you're for somebody in a poll and voting is not the same thing.
Absolutely.
But given the large financial advantage so many of your opponents have over you, are you sort of frustrated about that? How do you get your message out as effectively as they do? Because you won't have nearly as many TV spots, and you won't be on nearly as frequently. You won't have maybe as many direct mail pieces and things like that.
Yeah, I think going back to our poll, we did a horse race. It was one question of a 25-minute poll. We frustrated a lot of people about how long it was. Our poll was a message poll, and we looked at it, and this was in early April, and what we wanted to look at is what is Nashville feeling, what are they thinking? And what we found was my message and my bio polled at 85%, very appealing. We've never seen those numbers before. We have Mayor Purcell's former pollster. I mean, he was blown away, redid part of the poll just to make sure that those numbers were right. What we found is we're a rifle shot, is you come in with the right message. When people hear it, people are converting to our side. We don't need to run $1 million, $2 million worth of ads because we have the right message. I think other candidates are running 6, 7, 8 ads at this point and are tied with us in the polls. That tells me that our message may be the better message, and in fact is more forward-looking, is actually answering what voters want to hear instead of what a consultant tells them to say.
Mayoral candidate Jeremy Kane is our guest on Inside Politics. Back to continue our conversation with him on the other side of this break. Stay with us.